He's one of the most controversial figures on the Formula One grid. A driver born into privilege, launched into racing on a wave of billionaire money, and handed a seat in the world's most elite motorsport. But after nearly a decade in F1, has Lance Stroll proven anything? Is he a hidden talent buried under bad luck and injuries? Or is he the ultimate example of what money can buy, but skill can't save? And here's the question that splits fans right down the middle. If his last name wasn't Stroll, would he even be in the sport right now? In this video, we're going deep, past the headlines, past the memes, and straight into the truth behind one of F1's most polarizing careers. Because love him or hate him, Lance Stroll's story isn't just about racing. It's about legacy, entitlement, pressure, and the cost of never fully earning the seat you've been given. Lance Stroll wasn't some random rookie dropped into F1. He came in with credentials. In 2016, he dominated the European Formula 3 Championship, racking up 14 wins and comfortably taking the title. That kind of performance usually signals big potential, but the excitement was immediately overshadowed by one very loud, very loaded detail: his last name. Stroll's rise wasn't just about lap times. It was powered by one of the biggest wallets in the sport. His father, Lance Stroll, is a Canadian billionaire with serious influence, not just as a sponsor, but eventually as an owner. Before Lance even turned a wheel in F1, his path was paved with private testing programs, a personal development team, and access to resources most junior drivers could only dream of. In the eyes of many fans, that erased the credibility of his F3 title. They didn't see a champion. They saw a kid who bought his way into the big leagues. It didn't help that his F1 debut came with Williams in 2017, a struggling team at the time, willing to trade raw pace for financial backing. And once his father bought Racing Point, later rebranded as Aston Martin, the narrative became inescapable. Suddenly, Lance wasn't just a driver, he was the boss's son. Every poor performance fueled the pay driver label. Every decent race was chalked up to luck or team favoritism. Even when he finished on the podium in Baku during his rookie season, many fans dismissed it as a fluke. It set the tone for his entire career. For Stroll, success never brought him respect, and mistakes always came with an asterisk. And whether it was fair or not, the perception stuck like glue. If there's one number that defines the criticism around Lance Stroll, it's this: over 75 Q1 eliminations. That's not just bad, it's the worst in modern Formula One. Qualifying is where a driver's raw pace shows up with no strategy, no tyre saving, no excuses. And Stroll's record has been nothing short of brutal. It's not like he's been stuck in terrible cars his whole career either. Sure, the Williams days were tough, but since moving to Racing Point, and later Aston Martin, he's had solid machinery under him, especially in 2020, when the Racing Point was dubbed the Pink Mercedes for how closely it resembled the dominant W10. Yet even then, Lance struggled to consistently escape Q1 or Q2. He's frequently pointed the finger at the car, claiming the setup didn't suit his style or that traffic ruined his laps. But that explanation started to fall apart the moment Fernando Alonso joined Aston Martin. Alonso, in the same car, started qualifying in the top 10, sometimes even the top 5, while Stroll kept getting knocked out early. The contrast was glaring. You had a two-time world champion pulling magic from the same machinery while Stroll was fighting to get out of the bottom 5. It stopped being about car performance and started looking like a driver performance gap. And qualifying isn't just about Saturday bragging rights. It sets the tone for the entire weekend. Starting P16 means you're stuck in traffic, battling midfield chaos, and relying on strategy miracles just to get points. Stroll constantly puts himself in this uphill battle, and it's been one of the biggest reasons fans and critics alike question whether he belongs at this level. Every time he gets knocked out early, the same question resurfaces. If he didn't have a billionaire backing him, would he still be on the grid? Frustration in Formula One is nothing new, but with Lance Stroll, it's become a recurring theme, and in recent years that frustration has started to boil over in ways that have drawn more attention than his driving. Take the 2023 Spanish Grand Prix. After a disastrous qualifying session, reports flooded in claiming Stroll had a full-blown meltdown in the garage. Some insiders said he threw his gloves, swore at team personnel, and stormed off before any debrief could even start. Aston Martin tried to downplay the situation, saying it was just heat of the moment emotion, but fans weren't convinced, especially after a video surfaced showing him slamming equipment and walking out without saying a word. That wasn't the only time his temper made headlines. During another rough weekend, he appeared to shove his trainer in frustration, a clip that quickly went viral. And then there were whispers from the paddock that he'd accidentally injured a mechanic's hand in a similar outburst. Whether intentional or not, it painted a clear picture. When things go south, Stroll doesn't always handle it well. And the backlash hasn't just come from fans. Even respected voices in the F1 world have started calling it out. Some say it's a lack of professionalism, others see it as immaturity, but nearly everyone agrees. It's not a good look for someone in his position, especially when you're already under scrutiny for being the boss's son. But here's the tricky part. Some fans argue these moments show he does care. That beneath the calm, soft-spoken media persona, Stroll is actually passionate. He just struggles to channel it. After all, we've seen other drivers lose their cool under pressure. Vettel, Verstappen, even Hamilton, they've all had moments of rage. The difference is those drivers had the results to back it up. For Stroll, every outburst just adds to the narrative, under-delivering, overreacting and crumbling when it counts. In early 2023, Lance Stroll suffered a serious cycling accident that left him with 2 broken wrists and a fractured toe just weeks before the start of the season. Most drivers would have taken time off. He didn't. With metal pins still in his hands and limited movement, he jumped into the car and raced through the pain. That comeback earned him a rare moment of respect from fans and critics alike. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't perfect, but it was gritty. And in a sport where mental and physical toughness go hand in hand, Stroll showed he was willing to fight through discomfort to stay in the game. He managed to finish 6th in Bahrain, surprising even his harshest skeptics. But that determination may have come at a cost. The injuries never fully healed. In 2025, he was forced to sit out the Spanish Grand Prix after recurring pain made it impossible to grip the steering wheel properly. The official reason was medical, wrist inflammation flaring up again. And while Aston Martin downplayed the severity, it reignited questions about whether Stroll was ever truly back to 100%. Since his return, his performance hasn't looked the same. Slower lap times, fewer overtakes, and continued qualifying issues. Some fans have sympathised, suggesting he's still driving through discomfort. Others aren't so sure. To them, it sounds like another chapter in the same story, another reason why the results aren't coming together. And that's the tough part. In F1, there's no room for almost. You're either on pace or you're off. And if injuries are part of the reason, most teams would consider replacing the driver, not protecting them. But when your father owns the team, that conversation doesn't happen as easily. So now, every time Stroll underperforms, the debate resurfaces. Is he battling through physical limitations with quiet bravery? Or are the injuries being used to soften the reality that even at full health, he may not have what it takes to keep up? For all the criticism Lance Stroll gets, there's one fact that rarely gets mentioned. He's quietly doing more for Aston Martin this season than people realise. As of mid-2025, he's scored 14 of the team's 16 total points. While Alonso has struggled with inconsistent form and race day misfires, Stroll has at least kept the scoreboard ticking. No, he's not challenging for podiums, but he's finishing races, avoiding chaos, and bringing the car home in one piece. Something not every midfield driver can claim. He's also become more composed in the cockpit, even if his public image hasn't caught up. Radio messages are calmer. His racecraft has matured. You can see it in the way he defends position, less frantic, more calculated. He's not the fastest guy on track, but he's no longer the rookie making reckless moves and spinning under pressure. And behind the scenes, People in the paddock have started to acknowledge that. While fans often mock his silent presence, team insiders describe him as focused and professional. He shows up early, puts in simulator time, and isn't known to complain on the radio unless something really goes wrong. There's also a growing community of fans on Reddit and social media who've started pushing back against the narrative. They argue that Stroll gets judged by double standards, that if he weren't the son of a billionaire, he might actually be seen as an average to solid midfield driver. Not world championship material, sure, but not the joke he's often made out to be. Of course, scoring quiet points in a struggling car isn't the same as leading a team. He's not dragging the Aston Martin to unexpected podiums like Alonso did last season, but he's doing something that matters. He's keeping them alive. In a cutthroat midfield battle where every point counts, that is a contribution. So while his critics are louder, his defenders are starting to speak up too, and the truth, as always, probably sits somewhere in between. No matter how many races he finishes or how many points he sneaks in, one thing never changes: the critics don't let up. And in Lance Stroll's case, they've only gotten louder. One of the most brutal takedowns came from Gunther Steiner, former Haas team principal, and never one to sugarcoat his words. In an interview, Steiner flat out said that Stroll would absolutely not be in F1 if it weren't for his father's money. He doubled down, calling Lance non-existent on the track and questioning his motivation. That wasn't a throwaway comment. It was a shot fired by someone who knows the sport inside and out. Then you've got outlets like Jalopnik, who openly labelled Stroll the worst qualifier in modern Formula One. They weren't being vague. They pointed straight at the numbers, the lack of poles, the Q1 eliminations, and the absence of any real progress over nearly a decade in the sport. It wasn't just criticism, it was character assassination dressed in stats. Even within fan communities, the sentiment is often harsh. Social media threads are filled with sarcastic comments like, "Stroll could crash into a wall and still get a contract extension," or "You can't fire the owner's son." And unfortunately, those lines stick. They've become part of the meme culture that surrounds his entire identity in the sport. And here's the thing: Stroll hasn't helped himself much. He doesn't talk back in interviews, he doesn't make bold statements, he doesn't defend his performances aggressively. That silence, intentional or not, makes the criticism echo even louder. Without a strong public counter-narrative, the negativity fills the vacuum. It's a vicious cycle. The more people doubt him, the harder it gets for him to prove otherwise. Every bad weekend reinforces the worst opinions. Every decent finish is dismissed as expected. And the longer he stays in F1, the more people question whether he's taking up a seat that should go to someone else. Fair or not, the pressure on Lance Stroll doesn't come from just one direction. It comes from all sides. Fans, media, even his own paddock peers. And if he's going to change the story, it'll take more than quiet consistency. It'll take something big. Lance is under contract with Aston Martin until 2026. That gives him time, but also raises questions. Is the team really backing him? Or are they just keeping him around because of family ties? More importantly, will he rise to the occasion, prove his critics wrong, and finally break free from the pay driver tag? Or will he fade out of F1 as one of the sport's biggest missed opportunities? So, how bad is Lance Stroll really? Entitled and inconsistent, or underrated and under pressure? Drop your take in the comments, I'm reading them all. And if you want more deep dives like this, make sure you hit subscribe.